What do they tell us about the state of fundraising when you look at those special elections in particular?
Well, they tell us that the money is going to be there. If you're a Democratic candidate and you're thinking about getting into a congressional race, in the next year or so, there's probably going to be financial support for you there in terms of dollars to back up a new candidacy. That's what we're seeing in the Georgia special election, which you mentioned. The election will be held tomorrow. And they've raised $8.3 million, which is just an unprecedented amount for a House district in one quarter.
John, what accounts for this inflow of cash? Do we have these two parties actively trying to get more small donor donations? Is there just great enthusiasm for getting involved in the political process in light of the election back in November? How much has been sort of actively ginned up?
Yeah, no, I think the short answer to that is Donald Trump. I mean, he's driving fundraising both on the Democratic side, especially, where we're seeing tons of grassroots activity, dollars flooding into the special election, into the campaign accounts of Senate candidates that will be, starting to get more active in their campaigning later this year. And on the Republican side, their fundraising is not slack either. I mean, they're doing quite well. They're raising a lot of money. Trump has raised a lot of money in the first quarter already. So he's really elevated the political conversation, I think, in the country, and that's driving fundraising.
You think about when Paul Ryan became the Speaker of the House, he was reluctant to adopt the kind of fundraising schedule that his predecessor had, traveling as much indeed as John Boehner did. He wanted to spend more time at home in Wisconsin. How's he doing as a fundraiser? How much of this is being led by the Speaker of the House?
Yeah, he's doing really well as a fundraiser. Of course, in 2012, when he was a vice presidential nominee, he really built out a national network of supporters, donors, people who are familiar with him. And he's going back to those folks and raising dollars now for his campaign fund, which he calls Team Ryan. And then in turn, he distributes that money to Republicans in the House. This quarter, he raised $22 million, and he distributed $13 million of that back to his House caucus. So that helps him, even with the health care setback that they had a few weeks ago, it helps his political clout by having those dollars in the bank and the ability to dole them out to other members.
John, you mentioned a little bit there sort of where this money is going. Let's look at the Democratic Party. You can look at the Republican Party as well. What are they spending this money on, or are they holding it in their vaults here until we get closer to 2018?
It depends on the district and the race. I mean, there's not a lot of advertising going on, except for in that Georgia special election, where there actually is a lot of advertising going on, both by Ossoff and by Republican candidates and third parties who are trying to weigh in. But most of this is going to the early organizing. I mean, candidates they basically spend money to raise money. So they're building grassroots online fundraising operations. In some of the states, they're starting to hire campaign staff and aides, but there's not a ton of spending at this point. It's mostly a fundraising part of the cycle right now.